The church was always supposed to be a place of peace. For me, it was just another stage where my parents paraded their favoritism like a badge of honor. That Sunday, the pews filled with whispers and polished shoes, sunlight cutting through stained glass, and the choir humming low as people settled. I walked in quietly, my head lowered, clutching the little hymn book tighter than I should have. It was my sister Claire's day to shine again. She was reading scripture in front of everyone. The family pride, as my dad loved to announce at every chance. Her seat near the altar was draped with a white ribbon, reserved just for her. But I didn't see the ribbon. I didn't even notice it until it was too late. My anxiety always clouded me in moments like this. I just wanted to sit close to the front to not look like an outsider in my own family. So I sat. The moment I lowered myself onto the cushion, I felt the shift. My mom's stare, my dad's jaw tightening, Claire's smirk from across the aisle. But I didn't move. Not this time. I was tired of being pushed to the back. Tired of being treated like I was dirt in my own parents' home. Get up. My dad hissed from Depew's back, his voice cutting through the church's hum. I froze. Everyone around me went still, their heads turning just slightly, pretending not to listen, but hungry for drama. My hands shook. On the hymn book, I said, "Get up. That's not your seat." He barked loud enough for half the congregation to hear. "I'm not hurting anyone," I whispered, my voice trembling, but firm enough to shock even myself. "It's just a seat." That's when he moved. David. My father stormed down the aisle, his boots heavy against the wooden floor. Before I could breathe, his fist connected with my face. The sound was louder than I imagined, a sickening crack that silenced the entire church. I gasped, blood gushing instantly from my nose, my hymn book dropping to the floor with a dull thud. The congregation gasped. A child started crying somewhere in the back. And then the whisper, my mother, Evelyn, leaning over, her lips curling like she'd been waiting for this moment. "Now you match the dog outside," she said, a venomous hiss meant only for me, but loud enough for the woman beside her to hear. Her chuckle spread like a stain, and people shifted uncomfortably, unsure if they should leave, stay, or pretend this wasn't happening. Claire covered her mouth, trying to hide a laugh. My dad stood over me, chest heaving, his hands still curled into a fist like he'd just proven a point. I stumbled to my feet, blood running down my face, soaking into my dress. My vision blurred, but not from tears, from rage. My entire body trembled, not in fear, but in the realization that something had broken inside me. Not just my nose, something deeper. I looked around the church at the stunned faces, neighbors, teachers, the pastor himself. Every single one of them had seen. They had seen the blow, the blood, the cruelty that my family usually kept inside the four walls of our home. And instead of shame, my parents looked proud, like they had finally shown the world where I belonged. I picked up the hymn book, my hands sticky with blood, and forced myself to stand straight. My voice cracked, but it carried through the hushed church. "One day you'll regret this," I said, looking straight at my parents. The room stayed frozen, waiting for someone to intervene. But no one did. Not a soul moved. And in that silence, with the blood dripping from my chin onto the polished floor, I knew something for certain. Today wasn't the end of my humiliation. It was the beginning of theirs. I didn't go home with them after church. I couldn't. My nose was swollen. My dress was stained. And every step I took outside the sanctuary felt like the ground was swallowing me whole. But as I walked, head high, despite the throbbing pain, I realized something important. The entire town had just witnessed what my family usually hid. The whispers were already starting, following me outdoors, bleeding into the crisp Sunday air. "Did you see that?" Someone muttered behind me. "He actually hit her in church." Another voice whispered, and the mother, God help her, what she said. By the time I reached the parking lot, people weren't even pretending to look away anymore. They stared at me like I was both victim and spectacle. My classmates hovered in clusters, some too scared to speak, others shaking their heads in disbelief. A few even tried to approach me, but the look on my face must have stopped them. I wasn't crying. I wasn't begging. I was bleeding, yes, but I was standing. And that was worse for my parents than if I had collapsed. Later that day, when I finally stumbled back home, the house reeked of roasted chicken and self-satisfaction. My father sat at the table like nothing had happened, polishing off his plate while my mother poured herself wine with a smile. Claire scrolled through her phone, clearly enjoying the drama online, because by then someone had already posted about it. "Do you know how embarrassing you made us look?" My mom snapped, pointing her wine glass at me like it was a dagger. I froze. I embarrassed. My voice cracked from the swelling in my face. "He broke my nose in church. Because you don't know your place," my dad said coldly. "If you'd respected your sister's seat, none of this would have happened. That's on you. And now everyone thinks we're monsters because of you," my mother added, as if she were the victim. "You should be grateful we haven't thrown you out yet." The room spun with their arrogance, their blindness, their cruelty. Claire giggled. "Honestly, you're kind of famous now. Everyone's calling you the dog girl." The blood roared in my ears. My fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. I wanted to scream, to smash something, to break them the way they broke me, but I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I let their laughter burn itself into my memory. Every word, every smirk, every insult. The next few days, I walked through town with bandages across my nose. Everywhere I went, I saw the look spitty from some, disgust from others, curiosity from most. Teachers avoided eye contact. Old women in the market whispered behind their hands. Even the pastor, who had done nothing to stop it, gave me a weak nod like he wanted me to forgive and forget. But there was no forgetting. The humiliation clung to me like a second skin. My parents thought the town would blame me, that I would be marked as the embarrassment, the shameful daughter who provoked her father. But something unexpected happened. The whispers didn't fade. They grew. People started asking questions. Why would a man hit his own daughter in front of God and the whole congregation? Why would a mother laugh? I watched as the cracks began to form. My father stormed into the hardware store one morning and heard the snickers. My mother walked into the hair salon, and the room went quiet until someone muttered, "There goes the one who called her daughter a dog." Even Claire, the golden child, started feeling the sting when her friends asked her if she was okay with what her parents did. At home, the tension thickened. My father drank more. My mother snapped at Claire over nothing. Claire snapped back. The perfect family portrait they loved to shove in everyone's faces started rotting. And I knew I didn't have to do a thing to help it along. But I wanted more than whispers. I wanted more than cracks. I wanted them shattered. So I started planning. I didn't plan with rage or tears or broken fists. I planned with silence. I cleaned my wounds, went to work, and kept my head down. To them, it probably looked like I was retreating, beaten back into obedience. But behind that silence, I gathered every detail, every weakness, every thread I could pull until the entire house of cards would come crashing down. Because if they wanted to humiliate me in front of the whole town, then the whole town would watch when I returned the favor. And this time, they wouldn't recover. The turning point came a week later when the church announced its annual community fundraiser. The entire town would be their families, elders, pastors, business owners, everyone who had seen or heard about the incident. My parents were determined to show up like nothing had happened, to parade themselves around as the model Christian family. They ironed their best clothes, rehearsed polite smiles, and even told me to behave or not come at all. But I went. I walked into that hall with my bandaged nose, my chin high, and a storm boiling inside me. The night was full of chatter, clinking glasses, and the sound of a local choir. My parents mingled with forced laughter, shaking hands, pretending they weren't already the town's whispered shame. My mom even leaned toward one of the church deacons and hissed, Don't mind her face. She tripped. Clumsy thing. The deacon didn't reply, only looked at me with pity. That was my moment. I stepped onto the stage where the microphone was. Right after the choir ended, my heart pounded so hard it felt like it might split my ribs, but I didn't falter. The room went silent, all eyes turning toward me. My parents' smiles froze, horror creeping into their faces. I wasn't supposed to speak tonight, I said, my voice steady. But since my parents like to put on a show, I figured I'd join them. Gasps rippled through the hall. My dad hissed from the crowd, "Get down now." My mom gripped his arm, whispering frantically, "Stop her." I didn't move. "You all saw what happened last Sunday," I continued, pulling off the bandage and revealing the bruised, broken nose still healing. My father broke my nose in church in front of God because I sat in a chair. And my mother, she laughed and said I looked like the dog outside. That's who they are. That's the family they're so proud of. The whispers exploded into full-blown outrage. People stood, hands covering their mouths. One woman shouted, "We heard it." Another man, red-faced, growled, "We've seen enough of this family's arrogance." My dad surged forward, face red with rage. "You liar. You ungrateful brat." He tried to yank me off the stage, but I had been ready. I held up his phone, the very phone he used to snap that picture of me bleeding, humiliated, while he posed beside me. The one he had left, charging in the kitchen, too drunk to notice me copying everything. I projected the picture on the big screen behind me. The hall erupted. There it was, undeniable. My dad grinning, giving a thumbs up, standing beside me with my face swollen and blood streaming down my chin. And my mom in the background, laughing, wine glass in hand. The crowd roared with disgust. Someone shouted, "Monsters." Another yelled, "Call the police." An old woman clutched her chest and muttered, "In God's house." Shameless. My father's body froze. My mother's face drained of color. Claire for once couldn't smirk. She was trembling. "You wanted the town to laugh at me?" I said, my voice shaking, but sharp as glass. "Now the town is laughing at you." "No." They're spitting. Security and church elders surrounded my parents. The pastor, who had stayed silent before, stepped up now, his voice booming with disgust. "You shamed your daughter, this church, and this entire community. You are no longer welcome here." My parents pleaded, stammering excuses, but the hall drowned them out with jeers. People pulled out their phones, recording, snapping pictures. Their polished reputation shattered in seconds. Their carefully built lies burned to ashes right there in front of everyone they had ever tried to impress. I didn't wait for them to be dragged out. I walked off the stage, the crowd parting like water. For once, they didn't look at me with pity. They looked at me with respect, and at my parents with nothing but disgust. When I reached the doors, I turned once just to see it. My father slumped, his head in his hands. My mother's makeup streaked with tears, whispering, "Please, not like this." Claire staring, humiliated as her friends filmed everything. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. Their laughter had died, their pride gutted, their power destroyed. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one left bleeding.